Okay, now, what we do now is we try to compare everything to morphine. So let me just tell you before I even start. Morphine, for many, many years, was on its way out as an analgesic. And one of the reasons is that if you use it orally, it has very variable absorption from the GI tract and has a big first pass effect. So it wasn't until you got continued release morphine. You ever hear of MS-Contin? Okay, MS-Contin is a controlled release morphine, which still, I mean, you're still going to get the first pass effect, but you're going to deliver at least enough on a continual basis. That's what brought morphine back into the picture, was MS-Contin. The fact that you could get a sustained level, blood level of morphine. So it's a continued release form. Okay, let's start that. So next thing we're going to do is codeine. Now, codeine, for all of its actions, including its analgesia, it has to metabolize to morphine except for its antitussive effect. It is active as is as an antitussive. But as far as analgesia goes, okay, as far as analgesia goes, it is not effective. It must be metabolized to morphine. Codeine is nothing more than methylmorphine. On that I think I showed you this yesterday. On the 3-hydroxy group, all you do is you methylate the 3-hydroxy group, and that's what codeine is, methylmorphine. But to exhibit its analgesic effects, it must be metabolized to morphine. Now, I told you yesterday, you remember what enzyme is responsible for metabolizing codeine to morphine? 2D6. Cytochrome P450, 2D6. And why that becomes important is, if you're Caucasian, 10% of Caucasians, so 10%, let's say, of the Caucasians in this class, which is a lot, will not respond to codeine because they have a genetic defect in their, it's a polymorphism in their cytochrome P450 2D6, so they don't metabolize it very quickly or at all. In Africa, it can go up to 30% in African countries. So what happens is, in some people, codeine will not have an analgesic effect because they have a polymorphism in their cytochrome P450 2D6, which prevents the conversion of codeine to morphine. Will you still have antitussive activity in those people? Yes, that's the big point. Now, what they say is that codeine is about 1/10 as potent as morphine when given IM, but that's because only 1/10 of it gets converted to morphine. So as far as potency goes, it's lower potency, but the lower potency is because when you give it, only about 10% of it gets converted to morphine. Okay, anything else? Codeine, and we're going to keep track of this. Which ones have excellent oral bioavailability? They call it the oral to parenteral ratio. Which ones have a high oral to parenteral ratio? Well, all that means is the ones that are very effective orally have a high oral to parenteral ratio as far as their analgesic effect goes. Codeine is one of those. Okay, very effective orally. Okay, I don't know what its biggest use is anymore. I don't know if it's for pain or if it's as an antitussive. Certainly it's an antitussive, and it does have significant anti-diarrheal activity because it's converted to morphine. In other words, constipation. You can use it to treat diarrhea. Okay, let's see if I messed up anything. Since codeine is metabolized to morphine, you have the same potential, okay, to become addicted and dependent on it. And I grew up in an era where codeine was available in every cough medication over the counter. And I had, not friends, but they were the big guys at the playground. You know, the older teenagers then, they used to go to 4 or 5 different pharmacies in town and buy cough syrup and drink the whole bottle. And the thing was, that stuff had that licorice taste to it back then. They used the licorice to sort of cover the taste. And I don't know how they did it. They would drink a bottle or two to get the high. That was in the 1969, 1970, that era. They finally took it off the market as far as being OTC. Of course, now it is a controlled substance now. But when I grew up, it wasn't. It was in all cough syrups. Okay, it is constipating. Heroin. Heroin is nothing more than diacetylated morphine. For its actions, you must cleave off at least the 3-acetyl group. Remember, the 3-hydroxy group is acetylated in heroin. You have to hydrolyze that off. You can leave the 6-acetyl group on. So the active substances are either monoacetyl morphine, which is it's actually 6-monoacetyl morphine, okay, or morphine itself. So it's nothing more than a prodrug. In this country, we don't have any use for it, but over in other countries, it is available to treat intractable cancer pain. And right now, the biggest problem in this country, it's stunning that we now have a heroin problem in this country. And we went back to it. For a long period of time, it completely disappeared from the United States. Now it's back. And what are they blaming it on? What are they blaming the heroin epidemic on? Weed. People who are using OxyContin and other things, people who are legally being prescribed opioids, become addicted to them, and they are changed. Once the doctor doesn't write the prescription anymore, they're going for the heroin. We are actually addicting our population, okay, by using opioids in the community. It's a huge problem. And it comes in some of the places you would never expect, like New Hampshire and Vermont. Those are these conservative places. You would never expect that, anything like that to occur. But that's two of the biggest states where you have the highest percentage on heroin, becoming heroin addicts. Okay, heroin is 2 times as potent as morphine because it crosses the blood-brain barrier. Okay. Oxycodone. Oxycodone is another one of those agents with a high oral to parenteral ratio. Now, this is so debatable. I hate to even get into it. But originally when I was taught, they said that oxycodone was a partial agonist. A lot of people don't think that anymore. They think it's a full agonist. So I'm just going to say, we'll leave it up in the air, but what I would call is a high efficacy partial agonist, which means, you know, it might have 80 or 90% of morphine's intrinsic activity, but it's a high efficacy partial agonist. Because they believed it was a partial agonist in the past, what they do is combine it with either acetaminophen or, what was the other thing? Aspirin, an NSAID. And the idea is the NSAID takes care of the pain peripherally, and the narcotic part of it, the oxycodone part, would take care of central pain. So a lot of times you will see this OxyContin. So it is useful in severe pain now. And one of the reasons it might be useful in severe pain, it's metabolized to oxymorphone. And we're going to talk about oxymorphone in a few seconds. Oxymorphone is more potent than morphine. So one of its metabolites is a full agonist, and it's a very potent agent. Oxycodone was another one of those agents that in the past, all you ever saw was in the dental office. Usually was Percodan. Okay, Percodan, which is aspirin, there's Percocet and Percodan. Percodan is the one with aspirin, Percocet is the one with acetaminophen. It was like That was probably one of the biggest use of it, like in the for dental pain and things like that. What happened was OxyContin. OxyContin just brought this back into the community. It's a really it's a great formulation for what it does. They've reformulated so it's supposed to be less able to be crushed and extract out and injected. But it's a big problem too, OxyContin now. Misuse of OxyContin. Anyway, used for moderate to severe pain. Attack, we told you the reason we combine it with, we talked about the reason we combine it with an NSAID. The other thing about OxyContin is that it is more potent than morphine. Maybe less efficacious because it's a partial agonist, but it's actually more potent at the lower dose. It's like 2 to 3 times more potent than morphine. Okay, so it's a potent agent. Okay? Then you have hydrocodone. Hydrocodone is another one of those partial agonists. What's its biggest use? Where do you see it used in? What? It's the #1 prescribed opiate preparation in the community. What is it? Vicodin. Vicodin. Okay. Once again, it's combined with an NSAID. It is a partial agonist, so they combine with an NSAID. It's less potent than morphine, so they do combine with the NSAID, and it's metabolized to hydromorphone, which is also more potent than morphine. This one is less potent. The parent drug is less potent than morphine. The metabolite is more potent. It's used in painkillers, used a lot in Vicodin, which is the #1 prescribed opioid formulation out there. And it's also a pretty good antitussive too, but they're using it more for pain. Okay. By the way, these are all phenanthrine. Oh, I forgot to mention. All the agents we're talking about right now are primarily mu agonists. I'll stop and tell you when we want to start thinking of them as kappa agonists. But right now, everything we're talking about are mus, and because they're mus, they have that euphoria and physical dependence and things like that. Okay, hydromorphone is Dilaudid. What do you guys know about Dilaudid? Yes. 10 times more potent than morphine. It has a shorter half-life. It has a very high abuse potential. About the 3rd year I was here teaching, when a couple students went on rotation, especially one student, they were stealing, when they went on rotation, they were stealing Dilaudid from the safe. Somehow they knew how to get in there, and they didn't have the safe number, but they knew how to get into the room, and the safe was open. And it took the one guy, it took him 2.5 years to come to not be addicted or not crave it anymore. And so then he washed out and he got good, better. His wife got killed in a traffic accident. So it was just a sad story. But it was 2 students, and I knew them personally, who stole it and they became addicted to it. So it's a really powerful. Now remember that hydrocodone, which is in Vicodin, is metabolized to hydromorphone, which is Dilaudid. So they're both active. They're both active as is, but their metabolites are even more potent. Okay, then oxymorphone you don't see too often, but it is actually more potent also than morphine. Okay, so Dilaudid is about 10 times more potent than morphine. So that's that agent. Not much to be said about that. Okay, now the next agent comes from the phenylpiperidine. We're going to switch classes. All these other ones, the phenanthrines, all mu agonists mainly, with some maybe kappa, but they're mainly. I have the phone. Okay, so we're still on mu agonists. The next group that came out were the phenylpiperidines. And some of the agents, the big deal with them was, and we'll start first with meperidine. Meperidine is Demerol. Do you guys see a lot of Demerol? They're saying that it's being used less and less and less and less. Now the thing that was about meperidine was it didn't have the sphincter squeezing effects that the other ones does. So you don't get much constipation with this one agent. So it doesn't have much constipation. Okay? It doesn't have as much effect on the uterus. Because it doesn't have, what was the effect of morphine on the uterus? Prolonged labor. They can use meperidine in obstetrics because it doesn't prolong labor. So it was used, it's used an awful lot in obstetrics. Okay? It doesn't have anti-constipation effects, and it doesn't cause urinary retention. So the way to think of it is this is an agent like morphine in the fact that it's a mute, but it doesn't have all of this sphincter squeezing effect. It doesn't have constipation. It doesn't affect the uterus as much. It doesn't cause urinary retention. So that's what makes it different. Now, the problem with it is, one, it's less potent than morphine, and two, it has a shorter half-life. And make sure you understand, I'm going to emphasize it so that you understand, it's going to show up in the test, is it has a shorter half-life than morphine. So what does that mean if you're using it to control? Okay. You have to use more frequent doses, and you have to use higher doses. Okay, now, the problem with meperidine is it has a metabolite. And that metabolite builds up because of the continual dosing. And especially in renal failure patients, it builds up, it builds up, it builds up. And this metabolite is toxic. And what it does is it causes muscle twitching all the way up to seizures. And that's the thing we worry about, is seizures with this agent. So because it has a shorter half-life and is less potent morphine, we have to use higher doses, and we have to dose it more often. Because we have to dose it more often, it builds up, and what happens is you form this normeperidine. What you do is you cleave off a methyl group off of meperidine, you get normeperidine. The metabolite is toxic. The metabolite is toxic, and that's a problem. Another one of the things about meperidine is it blocks the reuptake of serotonin. It blocks the reuptake of serotonin. We're going to talk about a number of agents today that block the reuptake of serotonin. What is that contraindicated? I know you can read it. What's it contraindicated with? MAO inhibitors. What's the potential there? For what? What do we call it when you get MAO inhibitors plus SSRIs? What was it? Serotonin syndrome. Serotonin syndrome. So you cannot use with MAOs. And of all the ones we're going to talk about that block the reuptake of serotonin, the one that seems to have the biggest primary bad effect of MAO inhibitors is meperidine. Okay, so let's see what we talked about here. Less potent than morphine, little or no constipation, urinary retention. Can't use it as an anti-diarrheal, by the way, because you don't have constipation. It doesn't cause constipation. It's not effective as an anti-diarrheal. Okay, I don't see that in there. Well, it says no constipation. It means no anti-diarrheal effect. Oh, the other thing, it doesn't have antitussive effects. It's not on there. Not a good antitussive. Okay, so that's meperidine. The next one in the same class is fentanyl, and there's also sufentanil. These two agents are highly lipophilic. And because they're highly lipophilic, they cross the blood-brain barrier very easily. They are very potent agents. Very potent agents. Okay? Look what it says. Fentanyl has 50 to 100 times the analgesic potency of morphine. Sufentanil is 5 to 7 times that of fentanyl, so it can be up to 1,000 times more potent than morphine. Now, get in your heads, okay, they're lipophilic, they're highly potent. Get in your head that they have very short half-lives. I don't say very short, let's say short half-lives. Okay? Short half-lives. One of the great things about them is they have really no effects on the heart. Okay? They have no effects on the cardiovascular system. So, what they love to use these things for is for anesthesia. What happens is, if you use the fentanyl or the sufentanil or something called remifentanil, you don't have to use as much gas as anesthetic. When they put the mask over here for general anesthesia, that gas also has analgesic properties. Well, what happens is, if you use the fentanyl or anything like that, or the sufentanil, remifentanil, you can reduce the flow of the gas. You don't have to use as much gas to get a good analgesic effect. However, they also have short half-lives. So one of the problems is you do have to, if you're going to have a long procedure, you have to continually inject. But some procedures are very slow. And there's one called remifentanil, which has a very short half-life. And remifentanil, the deal on remifentanil is it is metabolized by hydrolysis. Serum esterases metabolize it. So remifentanil has a very short duration of action. They use it for very quick surgical procedures. For surgical procedures, sometimes like even intubations and things like that. Very short half-life. So remifentanil is one of these. Fentanyl and sufentanil are very potent, but they have a problem with them. The sufentanil and fentanyl is they cause muscle, what they call truncal rigidity. And that truncal rigidity can interfere with ventilation. So they're using mechanical ventilators. What happens is you get this, rigidity of your chest wall so that the ventilator doesn't work as good. However, there's one type of surgery that they love to use fentanyl and sufentanil in. What would you think? What type of surgery? Cardiovascular surgery, because it has minimal effects on heart rate, oxygen demand, things like that. So one of their big uses, especially, was in cardiovascular surgery. So make sure you know that. Make sure you know they're very lipophilic. Make sure you know that they have short half-lives. Make sure that they're very potent. Make sure you know that they're very potent. Remifentanil is equipotent to fentanyl, but remember, remifentanil is hydrolyzed. It has a very short duration of action. Okay, now, when I first started here, fentanyl and sufentanil were available only as injection, only parenteral products. Okay? What happened is, in a few years I came here, they came out with Doragesic. Doragesic is a patch that contains fentanyl, and the reason they like it is it avoids first pass metabolism. That's why they like it. There was no oral formulation when I started here. So they came out with Doragesic, which was the fentanyl patch. They had to reformulate it, because here's what happened. Okay, up north, when it gets cold, some people use electric blankets. And for some reason, when they were using these electric blankets, it was releasing all of the fentanyl all at once. And the people were, I was going to say waking up there. No, they were not waking up. They were dying. due to respiratory, remember, it's still immune, so it has the respiratory depression, profound respiratory depression. So they had to reformulate the patch because some reason heat was causing it to be released all at once. So they reformulated the patch. Now, so that was it. Well, do you know what happened? Do you know what the addicts were doing? Okay, the hospitals used to throw the used patches, okay, in the garbage. And what happened was people were taking the patches, going to the garbage at night at the hospitals, looking for the patches. There'd be some residual fentanyl still left in it, scraping off the fentanyl, diluting it and injecting it and getting a high. So now when you take Duradiva Pass, you have to cut the whole, when you're done with it, you have to cut the whole thing open, and they have a special way they have to handle it to get rid of it. But that was that. But they did, and they came out with something very great, which I think is they came out with fentanyl lollipops. Okay, and I can't remember, is it Actic? I think it's ACPIQ or something like that. Anybody know with the lollipop? What is it? I think it's ACPIQ. Yeah. Anyway, so now you have fentanyl lollipops. So obviously you're taking it orally too. So they have changed the formulation. But let's see what. So I'm going to ask you some questions. What about potency of these agents? Very high. Okay. What about durations of action? What's the great thing as far as cardiovascular effects? What's the good thing as far as general anesthesia? You don't have to use as much of the gas. Okay. What's the biggest problem? A big problem. Truncal rigidity. Muscular rigidity. Truncal rigidity, including the chest area, so ventilators don't work as well. Okay. And remember, the respiratory depression with these things are going to be profound. I don't know if you remember this one. There is a drug of abuse called methylphenidate. Methylphenidate is known on the street as China White. China White is 10,000 times as potent. Okay? It's a fentanyl derivative, methylphenidate. And then, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure, I don't think this happened in your lifetimes. There was this terrorist group that took over a Russian theaters one time. Okay? And I remember, I can't remember what their political message was, but they took over this theater. So what they did was there's this substance, this China White, you can aerosolize. So what they did is they pumped it in, I don't know what their thinking was, okay? Maybe it would cause sedation, I don't know what they did is, they started pumping it into the theater. They killed like 40 people when they rescued them. They went to rescue the people, 40 of the people were dead because of the respiratory depression. So that wasn't a good idea. It happened over, I can't remember, probably 20 years ago. Okay. Sufentanil and fentanyl, same deal with them. Okay. So then we go to, these are the same class. Okay. So diphenoxylate. Okay. Diphenoxylate. What you have with these agents are, how do people tend to abuse these, addicts tend to abuse these agents? Intravenous. Okay. What they do is they dissolve them up and then they'll inject them intravenously. What happens with this agent and the next one is, even their salts are very, very insoluble in water. Okay? Very, very insoluble. So it makes them not useful for injecting. Okay? So that's one thing, supposedly. So very poor water solubility, that prevents the addicts from injecting them. Well, and they're supposed to have less euphoria, et cetera, and they don't cross the blood-brain barrier very well. And some of them, okay, some of these agents, the next two agents, they are substrates of P-glycoprotein. What that means is once they do cross the blood-brain barrier, not this one we're talking about right now, but the other one, they get pumped out. Okay, this agent, loperamide, okay, was supposed to have no abuse potential, like I said. Basically, they don't have much activity. They're still used, but they don't have much activity because they don't cross the blood-brain barrier very well. Nonetheless, people were somehow, okay, injecting this diethanoxylate, trying to get a high. They must have got some type of high because they were abusing it this way by injecting it. It is only used to treat diarrhea. That's what it's used for. It's an anti-diarrhea. So what they did is, because they were injecting it, what they did was, and they were taking humongous oral doses of it, because they really couldn't inject it very well, so they were taking humongous oral doses. What they did was, they took this agent and combined it with atropine. Now, I think it's 1/40 of the regular dose of atropine. Now, if you take this orally, like you're supposed to, the Lamotil, if you take it orally, you only get a little atropine into your bloodstream. Very, very little. But if you try to take large amounts of this agent, if you're an addict, and you try to take it orally by large amounts of this, what happens is the atropine reaches a significant level in the plasma, and it says here it causes profound nausea. That's not actually true. What it does is profound dizziness. I guess there's a difference between nausea and dizziness. So you get dizziness and a lot of other effects. You sweat a lot. You start sweating. Your pupils become very dilated to the extent that your eyes become very sore. So basically what happens is when you take this agent, when you get atropine in your body to any significant effect, you get a lot of unpleasant side effects. So basically the atropine is there as a deterrent from taking huge oral doses of it. So Lamotil is how it's administered, is the combination they use. It's diethanoxylate plus atropine. What are we using this agent to treat and only treat? Diarrhea. Okay? Yeah, so that says nausea. It should say dizziness. Okay. Loperamide, as you know, is over the counter. Okay. It's also useful for the treatment of diarrhea only. And this agent is even more insoluble than the previous one. It doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier very well like the previous one. And when it does cross the blood-brain barrier, it's expelled by P-glycoprotein. For that reason, it's very, very safe. It's so insoluble you can't inject it. It's very safe. Very little of it crosses the blood-brain barrier. When it does cross, it's expelled. So it's not scheduled or anything like that. So that's loperamide. According to the most recent textbooks, this agent is making, next agent is making a huge comeback as far as using it as an analgesic. It's making a huge comeback. Okay, this agent is methadone. Okay, methadone is equianalgesic to morphine. So, same activity as morphine, but here's the deal. It has a very long duration of action. A very long duration of action. It has a high oral to parenteral ratio. Forgot to mention that. So far, the agents with the high oral to parenteral ratios were codeine, oxycodone, and now morphine. Have a high oral to parental ratio. Anyway, what has methadone been used for years now? What has been its biggest use for years and years and years? For withdrawal, to treat withdrawal in addicts. Now, let's see why they used it. First of all, it has a long half-life. What does that mean? They don't have to use it as often. It's orally effective. How did addicts use opioids? What's the mechanism of administration? Intravenous. Well, if you use it, when you're treating the addict, you can use it orally. You want to get them out of that. You want to get them out of that situation, out of that environment where they're injecting it, and where they're injecting it often, because of its long duration of action, and supposedly it has less euphoria associated with it than morphine and heroin and all those other ones. Supposedly, I don't know how that could be, but that's the three things. Less euphoria, long duration of action, so you don't have to use it as often, and don't have to inject it. So that's why it's been used in programs to treat addicts or opioid addiction. Okay, let's look at some other things though. One of the things, because it does have a half-life, long half-life, it does build up and you can get cumulative effects. Okay, it will give you a cumulative effect. Well, one of the things that's been more recently discovered is it blocks norepinephrine and serotonin reuptake. And that's pretty important. And that's why it's making its comeback. The reason that is, remember when we were showing you the pain pathways? Remember what we said about the analgesic pathway, the analgesic pathway. What did we say were norepinephrine and serotonin in that pathway? And we said that they have a what? They have a pro-analgesic effect. So having this serotonin and the norepinephrine in addition to methadone, which is a mu agonist, we're still on mus. Okay? What they found out is in people with more intractable pain or people with neuropathic pain, because you have the additional analgesic effect of the serotonin and norepinephrine, that this agent is more effective than they used to believe it was in using it to treat, using it as an analgesic. Remember, for years and years and years, it's been used for opiate withdrawal, but now we're starting to think, hey, this is a superior agent for using it to treat as an analgesic. So that's changed very quickly in the last few years. They're starting more and more to use this agent. Okay, let me see. One drawback, okay, and it's rare, and it should be, I want to make sure we should put that in the handout. On rare occasions, okay, it does prolong the QT interval. It does prolong the QT interval. So you have potential for that lethal arrhythmia. So that's one drawback, but it's rare. Okay? It's rare, but we just have to mention that. Okay. Let me talk about, let's see what else I wanted to say about that. Oh, what's contraindicated with it? It's not in there. MALIs, MAO inhibitors. Okay, propoxyphene is off the market. So we won't discuss it. It was a very weak, it was a mu, but very weak. In fact, it wasn't even, at certain doses, it wasn't even better than 10 milligrams in 2 aspirin tablets. So it was very weak. They took it off the market. There were some incidents of death or some type of cardiovascular problems or something like that. Over in Europe, okay, they take L. It's a racemic mixture of L and L and D isomer. They take the L isomer and use it as an antitussive. That's not in the United States. The L isomer, called levothyroxine, okay, is used overseas as an antitussive. But we don't have it over here available in any form, so let's forget about it. And it was a crack. The thing was, it just wasn't very good. Okay, levorphanol. For the life of me, I cannot understand why this drug isn't used more. Yeah, I don't understand. First of all, I do want you to know that like methadone, it has a long duration of action. Therefore, okay, cumulative side effects. So if I ask you on a test which ones have the cumulative side effects, it's methadone and this one, levorphanol. Okay. It's 5 times more potent than morphine. Okay? It has an excellent oral bioavailability. This is the other one that has the high oral parental ratio. So far, it's been codeine, oxycodone, methadone, and now this agent. And that'll be the ones you have to remember, have that high oral parental ratio. Long T-half, the levo form has antitussive, respiratory depression, and analgesic effects. The dextro form has antitussive activity only. Now, when you're taking levorphanol, what isomer are you taking it as? Levo, or levorphanol, levo. It is the L isomer that you are taking. Okay, now, the dextro isomer, stereoisomer, has no analgesic, euphoric, or any type of effects. The only effect it has is antitussive effect. So that's dextrofan, is whatever it's called. Dextromorphan. Okay, now, what they did is they took the D isomer of levorphanol, the D isomer, and what they did was they made a methyl ether out of it. So they did change the structure. They took the D isomer, made the methyl, they methylated it, so they made the methyl ether of it, and that's what you know as dextromethorphan. Dextromethorphan. And what is dextromethorphan used for? Even in O2C preparation. And they're having some problem in children. Apparently the FDA has said don't use it in children under the age of 6, dextromethorphan. Don't use it in children under the age of 6. Okay? Now, all I can tell you is, I've taken dextromethorphan, and at night before I went to sleep, and I have the most beautiful dreams. Just phenomenal. I don't know what's going on, but it's just wonderful. But it only lasts for like one night. It only works for one night. So I don't know what's going on. But okay, this stuff has some properties. Okay. One of the properties that it does have, dextromethorphan, is it mildly blocks an NMDA receptor. Mildly blocks NMDA receptors. And it's also a sigma receptor agonist. And one of the things about sigma receptor agonists are, remember that I told you very early what was one of the things they gave you? Hallucinations and things like that. So I think that's what's going on while I'm sleeping. I'm hallucinating beautifully, or whatever's going on. But it does have some sigma effects. Okay? Dextromethorphan blocks levorphanol. Excuse me. Levorphanol blocks the reuptake of norepinephrine and serotonin. So what does that translate into? No MAOIs. No MAOIs with levorphanol. Now, dextromethorphan has another use that I want you to remember. There's something called, it's just the craziest thing of all, pseudo-bulbar. Now, they're doing commercials on this on TV now. It's the uncontrollable crying or laughing spells, sometimes associated with Lou Gehrig's disease, amyloidosis, multiple sclerosis, or dementia. So that's special for dextromethorphan. It has a special use, pseudo-bulbar effect. Okay? Now they combine it with quinidine. Okay? Quinidine is only there to inhibit the metabolism of the dextromethorphan. What they say is when you use the combination of the dextromethorphan and the quinidine, you increase the levels of dextromethorphan in the blood by 220-fold. So it's the combination product, it's called Nuedexta, is that combination. So that's with dextromethorphan. Okay? I wish I would have put this right here. It blocks the reuptake of norepinephrine and serotonin. That goes with morphinol. Okay? Dextromethorphan in combinations with MAOIs may produce serotonin syndrome because dextromethorphan also blocks the reuptake of serotonin. So both lavorfinol and dextromethorphan have this effect on serotonin reuptake. Okay? And I did tell you that dextromethorphan does have some sigma activity. Okay, so we will stop there. I forgot, Steve, you're supposed to tell me.
Oh, it was like, I was like, thank God we didn't I mean, Mountain, you know, things here in the room.